What happens when a single joke lands and the laughter doesn't? Picture this. A glittering awards night, cameras sweeping across a room packed with celebrities trained to smile through anything. A seasoned host at the microphone, a global audience watching live, and then one line, just one. The kind that hangs in the air a second too long, the kind that makes people glance at each other instead of laughing. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. That was the moment many viewers say changed the temperature of the 2026 ceremony at the Grammy Awards. Because in that instant, what was supposed to be playful satire suddenly felt sharp. Some swear they heard gasps. Others insist there was nervous laughter. And a few noticed something else entirely, the stillness. The kind of stillness that only happens when people aren't sure how they're supposed to react. The host? Trevor Noah, a comedian celebrated for intelligence, cultural awareness, and the ability to roast power without punching down. The alleged target? Meghan Markle, a woman whose public image has been debated, dissected, defended, and attacked for years. And suddenly, those two worlds collided on live television. Here's the uncomfortable question nobody can stop asking. Was this just comedy doing what comedy does? Or did a line get crossed in front of millions? Because context matters, timing matters, and history matters. The phrase that allegedly sparked the backlash wasn't just any insult. Critics argue it carried cultural weight, old stereotypes, and a long trail of baggage that many believed had been left behind. Supporters of the joke, meanwhile, rushed to defend it as satire. Nothing more than a jab in the spirit of award show tradition. So which is it? That's why this moment exploded almost instantly. Within minutes, clips were being replayed, slowed down, zoomed in on. Social media didn't just react, it fractured. One side laughed it off. The other saw something far uglier hiding beneath the punchline. And Meghan's reaction, or what viewers interpreted as her reaction, only added fuel to the fire. No words. No visible laughter. No exaggerated offense either. Just a composed, unreadable expression that some called dignified and others called damning. Was that restraint? Shock? Or the practiced calm of someone who's learned that reacting only makes the narrative worse? Ask yourself this. If she had laughed, would the backlash exist at all? And if she had visibly objected, would the conversation be even harsher? That's the trap of moments like this. You're judged no matter what you do. What makes this story matter now isn't just the joke itself. It's what it reveals about the invisible rules of public humiliation, especially when it plays out in real time. Who gets roasted? Who is protected? And who is expected to absorb it with grace? Because here's the contradiction that keeps resurfacing. Trevor Noah is known for challenging stereotypes, not reinforcing them. So why did this line feel different to so many people? Was it miscalculated irony? A risk that didn't pay off? Or something deeper slipping through under the cover of humor? The cameras moved on. The show continued. Awards were handed out. Applause returned. But the moment didn't disappear. Because within minutes, the internet did what it does best. Comedy lives and dies on timing. And that night, the timing felt off. Here's the thing about live award shows, like the Grammy Awards. Everyone in that room knows the rules. You laugh. You move on. Roasts are expected. Even welcomed. But every once in a while, a joke lands in a way that exposes the fault lines underneath the glitter. This was one of those moments. Trevor Noah had been cruising. Smooth delivery, confident rhythm. The audience was with him. You could feel it through the screen. The relaxed energy, the sense that this was going to be another polished, forgettable hosting performance. Then came the line. Not shouted, not aggressive, almost casual. Which somehow made it worse. For a split second, the room reacted the way it always does. A few laughs, a few claps. But then something strange happened. The laughter didn't grow. It didn't ripple outward. It stalled, like a car sputtering in the middle of an intersection. Watch the footage closely and you'll notice it. People shifting in their seats, eyes darting sideways. That tight smile celebrities wear when they're trying to calculate the safest response. And then the camera cut. Right to Meghan Markle. No exaggerated reaction. No performative outrage. Just stillness. That's what unsettled people the most. Because in a room where reactions are currency, silence is deafening. Was she offended? Or was she refusing to give the moment oxygen? No one knows. But in the age of hyperanalysis, not knowing is an invitation for everyone to project their own narrative onto her face. Some viewers immediately said she looked stunned. Others argued she looked bored, as if she'd heard worse before. A few claimed she was holding back laughter, and suddenly, the story wasn't even about the joke anymore. It was about interpretation. Ask yourself this: why do we expect public figures to perform their emotions on cue? If she had laughed, critics might have said she was endorsing the stereotype. If she'd reacted negatively, others would have called her humorless. The truth is, she was boxed in the moment the punchline landed. And here's where the contradiction deepens. Trevor Noah has built his career on dismantling harmful narratives, not recycling them. He's praised for being sharp without being cruel. So why did this joke feel to many like a step backward? Supporters were quick to jump in. They argued it was satire. That comedy has always pushed boundaries. That award shows thrive on discomfort. They reminded everyone that roasting is part of the culture, and nobody should be above it. But critics pushed back just as fast. They pointed out that some labels aren't neutral, that context matters, that certain phrases don't land the same way depending on who's saying them and who they're aimed at. And once that argument took hold, the room's awkward pause suddenly made sense. Because maybe the audience wasn't confused. Maybe they were conflicted. What made this moment especially volatile was how quickly it exposed a cultural divide. One side saw free speech and humor under attack. The other saw a powerful platform casually reviving a narrative that's followed Meghan Markle for years. And hovering over it all was the fact that this wasn't a late-night monologue or a stand-up set. This was live television. No edits. No second takes. Just a joke suspended in real time, judged by millions. The show moved on, of course. It always does. Music swelled. Applause returned. Another award was announced, but the energy never quite reset. Because while the cameras focused on the stage, something else was happening off-screen. Phones were already out. Clips were being recorded. Tweets were being drafted mid-broadcast. By the time the commercial break hit, the moment had escaped the room. And once it hit the internet, it stopped being a joke altogether. It became a battle. By the time the show cut to commercial, the verdict wasn't coming from the stage anymore. It was coming from phones. Here's the reality of live television in 2026. The audience doesn't wait until the credits roll. They react in real time. They clip. They caption. They decide what a moment means before the people involved have even left their seats. And this moment, it detonated. Within minutes of the broadcast, short clips of the joke began circulating, some cropped tightly to the punchline, others frozen on reaction shots. Different edits told different stories. In one version, the joke looked harmless. In another, it looked brutal. And once those versions hit social media, there was no single narrative left to control. Two camps formed almost instantly. One side laughed it off. It's comedy, they said. Award shows roast everyone. They argued that people were being too sensitive, that intent mattered more than interpretation, and that reading malice into a joke said more about the audience than the comedian. The other side didn't just disagree. They recoiled. They argued that this wasn't just a joke, but a callback to an old, loaded stereotype that had trailed Meghan Markle for years. They pointed out that humor doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that context can turn a punchline into something much sharper. And here's where things escalated. Because once social media picked sides, the commentary machine kicked into high gear. Reaction videos, think pieces, panel debates. Everyone suddenly had a take, and the takes grew louder by the hour. Some critics focused on power dynamics, a male host with the microphone, a woman seated in the audience, a global broadcast. They asked, who really has control in that moment and who's expected to absorb the hit quietly? Others zeroed in on contradiction. Trevor Noah is widely respected for social awareness. He's known for navigating cultural landmines with precision. So how did this slip through? Was it intentional provocation, a misjudgment, or proof that even the most careful voices can stumble when the room feels friendly? That contradiction made the story sticky, because it wasn't easy to dismiss either side outright. Then came the memes. Some were playful, others vicious. A few reframed the moment entirely, turning it into shorthand for larger debates about race, gender, class, and credibility. The joke itself almost disappeared beneath the weight of what people projected onto it. And Meghan Markle's silence only intensified the speculation. No immediate response, no tweet, no statement, nothing to clarify, soften, or escalate the moment. That silence became a Rorschach test. Supporters called it dignified restraint. Critics called it calculated. Others insisted it was shock. The truth? No one knew, but everyone felt entitled to decide. Ask yourself this: when did not responding become a statement louder than speaking? Media outlets began quoting sources close to the situation. Some claimed the joke caused visible discomfort backstage. Others said it was brushed off entirely. Conflicting reports circulated side by side, each reinforcing whatever narrative the reader already believed. And that's when the tone shifted. This stopped being about comedy. It became about reputation. Because once labels are revived, even jokingly, they stick. They're searchable, they're recyclable. And critics argued that the real damage wasn't the laugh or lack of it, but the way the phrase instantly re-entered public conversation. Ironically, defenders of the joke accused critics of amplifying it. You're the ones keeping it alive, they said. But that argument ignored a simple truth. Viral moments don't belong to their creators anymore. They belong to the crowd. By the next morning, the moment had grown far beyond the room where it started. And just when it seemed like the debate would burn itself out, something unexpected surfaced. Something that reframed the entire incident and raised a new, uncomfortable question. Because if the joke was meant to be harmless, why were people behind the scenes suddenly scrambling? So here's the uncomfortable truth. The joke itself didn't end the moment the laughter stalled. It didn't end when the show moved on. And it definitely didn't end when the cameras cut away. It kept living in comment sections, in headlines, in the way people started talking again. And that's the part that made this moment heavier than it first appeared. Because whether you thought the joke was harmless or hurtful, one thing became impossible to deny. It reopened a narrative that many believed had already been buried. Not because of what was proven, not because of new evidence, but because repetition alone can resurrect old labels. That's the real power of a live microphone. And here's where the irony cuts deepest. Awards shows love to brand themselves as progressive, inclusive, forward-thinking. Hosts are chosen carefully. Jokes are vetted. Risks are calculated. Yet somehow, this one slipped through in a way that left everyone asking the same question the next morning. How did no one in that room anticipate the fallout? Because according to multiple reports, what followed wasn't just online noise. Behind the scenes, conversations were happening. Publicists checking phones, executives monitoring reactions, damage control teams gauging whether silence was safer than response. And that silence, from everyone involved, became the loudest part of the story. No clarification, no apology, no doubling down. Just a collective pause. For some viewers, that pause felt like accountability waiting to happen. For others, it felt like avoidance. And for many, it was simply confirmation that the moment had gone further than anyone expected. Ask yourself this: if the joke truly landed as intended, why not explain it? And if it didn't, why not address it? That ambiguity is what keeps moments like this alive. Because in the absence of answers, audiences fill the gaps themselves. They project motive. They assume intent. They rewrite context. And once that process starts, no amount of backtracking can fully undo it. This wasn't just about Meghan Markle being the subject of a joke. It was about how quickly a room full of powerful people realized they couldn't control the narrative anymore. It was about how comedy, when broadcast live, stops belonging to the comedian the second it lands. And it was about how some labels, no matter how casually delivered, carry more weight than others. Supporters of Trevor Noah still argued this was a textbook example of overreaction culture. That comedy is being strangled by outrage. That audiences demand perfection while offering none in return. Critics counter with a different point. That free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequence. That humor can still cause harm even when harm wasn't the goal. And that history doesn't disappear just because it's delivered with a smile. Both sides think they're defending something important. And that's why this moment refuses to fade. Because at its core, this wasn't a scandal with a clean villain or a clear victim. It was a collision between intention and impact, between humor and history, between a joke told in seconds and a reaction that may last for years. The Grammys ended. Another host will take the stage next year. Another round of jokes will fly. But everyone watching learned something that night. That the line between satire and stereotype is thinner than it looks. And the next time a microphone goes live, someone will remember this moment. Someone will hesitate. Someone will choose a different word. Or maybe they won't, because the most unsettling part of the story isn't what was said on stage. It's that we still don't know whether anyone involved believes it went too far. And until that question is answered, this moment isn't over.